So again, I have I am presenting this in a way that it would be almost like a standalone. So I'm starting with my own point. Um, and we can, I'm not sure how that's going to work into the rest of what we're doing, but okay. I have a small animal who's wanting to be a part of the presentation. Are you enjoying that, what you're doing? Good. Bodhi has this thing he likes to do where cats have scent glands on the sides of their faces, and they like to claim ownership of things by rubbing their face against things. And so Bodhi likes to rub his face against my glasses. Okay, you ready? Bodhi, you need to go away. All right. So you can't really see this? Okay. Do you ever work with with the actual laptop in front of you so you don't have to turn around? Well, I mean, the original present, we can talk about it later. I'm just saying, so you have a reference where you don't have to make sure that the slide has changed over here, and doesn't matter for right now. All right. Thank you, Bodhi. Good presenters aren't born that way. Let me say that again. Good presenters aren't born that way. Good presenters practice. They have skills and different tools that they use to affect their audience and drive them to change. Now, in saying that, we inherently know that we start. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let me just run through it because it does change throughout me doing it. But you drew attention to that yesterday, and I'm aware of it. Okay. Let me start over. Good presenters are not born that way. Let me say that again. Good presenters are not born that way. They have tools, they practice, they have different skills that they go over and over and over. And what that means is that good presentation skills can be learned, but it helps if you have a system. And that's what we're here to talk about today. The presentation skills learning system, also known as the V Deck. You can see it's in the shape of a V. And the V is also in the shape of a funnel. A funnel is wide at the top and it comes down to a point at the bottom. Now let's look at this another way. If your presentation, if we were to fit that into the shape of a funnel, you have a lot of ideas up here, but every presentation you give should come down to a point. And that's what it's about. A point that you're making over and over and over again to help the listener and the viewer learn what it is you're trying to say. And so, again, what is that point? when you are giving a presentation. Now let's think about that for a minute. Giving a presentation. Giving, it's a gift. When you are delivering a presentation, this isn't about you. This is about the information that you have to share with your audience. It's how they're going to go change their lives and change other people's lives. So that is a gift. But maybe we've all received gifts in our lives that maybe we don't want, and we need to be sure of that. Maybe you've received a gift in your life where somebody hands it to you and you open it up and you hold it up and, oh, wow, another tie with pink and purple and polka dots on it. Thanks, Aunt Julie. Not Julie. Thanks, Aunt Mary. Or, well, wow, those same cubic zirconium earrings as last year. I didn't know Kmart still made those. At any rate, a presentation should be a gift. And that gift, your job is to make sure that it's not this or this, but it's the Rolex, it's the Mercedes of presentations in your viewer's mind and in your listener's mind. And so with that, let's talk about how to do that. That's all about communicating value with your words and with your presentations. When your listener sits down in front of you, they're going to have 4 questions circulating in their minds. That first question is, why should I listen to you? What's the point? Why should I listen to you in the first place? I have a lot going on. I have a lot on my mind. I have to pick up the kids after work. I have to get dinner ready. I don't know what time American Idol starts tonight. Is that Central Time? Your listener has a lot going on in their minds, and you have to be aware of that. You have to answer that question right from the beginning. And then you have to keep answering that question. Why should they keep listening to you? All through the course of the presentation. Again, what is the point that you're trying to make? You keep that central in your listener's mind. And then there are other questions that are, what do you want me to remember? And what do you want me to do? When you're done talking and I walk out that door, what is it that you want me to think about today, tomorrow, this week, next year? What is it that you want me to do as a result of these words that you've given me? So that's all about value. And we know that if you don't deliver that value, if you don't answer these questions, your audience's attention span will start, or attention will start to diminish, and you will lose them. Think of this. Let's look at it a different way. In fact, let's literally look at it a different way. Think of your audience's attention. We live in the, this would be, I'm doing this so you know. Your audience's attention is shrinking. We live in the age of Twitter, where you only get 140 characters at a time to express your point. And if you don't do it, you're gone. It's on to the next post, on to the next tweet. You need to be able to keep that attention. Think of it kind of like this window. We have this big, beautiful window here, top to bottom. And this, imagine, is you are feeding information through this window to your audience. And they're receiving it and they're enjoying it. But then your audience, you start to lose them a little bit because of our attention spans. And we have, if you had to guess, and Dad, this is a little bit out of sync. I've been practicing it a little bit in a particular way, and it's a little bit out of sync. But if you had to guess how long the average attention span is of the average human, the adult human, how long do you think it is? What do you think? 30 minutes, okay. And Sarah, what do you think? 20 seconds, okay. And Brene? Okay, 15 seconds. Microsoft did a study in which they determined that the average adult attention span is 8 seconds. 8 seconds, that's all you get. That's 1 second less than the average goldfish. That's all you get. So let's assume that this, again, you're feeding information and you're feeding your point through this window. You're receiving it. But then all of a sudden that attention span starts to come down. 8 And once it's down, it's gone. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you no longer can get that attention through there. You have lost your listener and your viewer. Once that's gone, it's gone. And there's very little way of getting it back. So that's communicating value. That is the foundation of your presentation that once again feeds into what is the point that you're trying to make that will help your audience remember. So then we have a whole other set of tools once we've set that foundation to keep your audience listening, watching, and remembering. The first set of tools is all about variety. Within variety is vocal variety, different ways of using your voice so that your audience will continue to pay attention. The first type of vocal variety is loudness. We have loudness, we have tone, and we have timing. Now within that, loudness, we all have a particular volume at which we talk, and you can alter that. You can bring your voice up to emphasize certain points, or you can bring it down. Now, some people as presenters think, I need to be loud all the time so people listen to me. Well, I actually worked for a gentleman who we would give presentation. He was presentations. He's a financial advisor. And so we give these presentations. He would bring his voice up all the time when he got excited, and he would speak really loudly. And the people in the front row would put their fingers in their ears because it was too loud all the time. Think of these variety techniques as spices. It's little things to get people to pay attention and kind of perk up and, oh, that makes sense, just to get their attention back so you can keep bringing it back to the point. You can also bring your voice down if you'd like to emphasize something that way. You can create different emotions by bringing your voice lower. The next one is tone. And with tone, we all have, again, a regular speaking tone. Now you can speak, some people speak monotone all the time, and you can even vary your loudness but keep the same tone. But with that, it's monotone. It's boring and people will tune you out. So one way to change that is to bring it up. Another way is to bring it down. I do voiceovers. I do voiceovers for part of my living, and what I do every day, I got a really good exercise from somebody, and that is to practice different pitches or different tones. The way I do that every single day, I have an exercise, and then I'd run them through the pitch exercise that I showed you the other day. And so that is all about voice tone and pitch. The last one, we have loudness, we have tone, and we have timing. Now with timing, the average speaker speaks between 120 and 190 words per minute. That's the average. Now you can go above that if you want to talk really fast. People might start paying attention to that. Even if you're, especially if you're starting to emphasize a certain point, you want people to really pay attention, or you're talking about being frantic or frenetic, or you can slow it down for emphasis as well. You can also use pauses in there. You can emphasize a certain point by pausing. So we have loudness, we have tone, and we have time. Now the next element of variety, we had vocal variety, now we have visual variety. Visual variety starts with eye contact. Now, there are a lot of great ways to use eye contact, and there are some not so great ways to use eye contact. Let's start with the not so great ways. Some people think that they have to use eye contact in a way where they are just set and focused on one person at a time. This is not good, engaging eye contact. This is Freddy Krueger eye contact, and it's awkward, and your audience will not feel like you connect with them. They will feel awkward and alien. Another way people use eye contact is that they start on one side and they just move across the room. They call this scanning or bobblehead or sprinkler head eye contact. And this is not focusing on anybody. What we recommend in the presentation skills learning system is what we call point and move. You make your point, you're talking with somebody and you make a point, and when you're done with that, you move on to the next person. It's starting with one person, making the point, letting your eyes drop and move on, point and move. One person at a time, and make a real connection with that person. Now, some people are uncomfortable with eye contact, especially prolonged eye contact. One way to resolve that is just to practice it. Stand in a room with somebody, of course, make this arrangement with them first, but make eye-to-eye contact and hold it there as long as you can. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, just get used to staring in that person's eyes. And you will feel uncomfortable at first, but as the time goes on, you'll start to just feel more relaxed. Eye contact. Then we move on from eye contact to gestures. With gestures, there are two different kinds. The first kind is animated gestures, and this is the release and the transfer of energy. Or we could call this emphatic gestures. I'm making a point, and so I am sending energy, or I'm making an emphasis on something, but it's not quantifiable. It's not any particular point. It's just gesturing to, again, convey energy and excitement and your point. So those are animated or emphatic gestures. Then we have descriptive gestures. That's something else. Descriptive gestures basically are describing or helping you animate helping you demonstrate a particular element of what you're talking about. So for example, if I'm talking about the 5 things that I did that made a difference in my life, it's 5. It's the number 5. And that 5 is not here. It's not 5 down here. It's not 5. It's 5. So everybody can see it. Or we're talking about the biggest cookie in the world. The biggest cookie in the world. Not the biggest cookie. But you saw when I was using the Twitter example, we were talking about Twitter, because Twitter, you have 140 characters and that's all you get. My entire body came down to emphasize this. So I'm using gestures, not just with my hands, not just with elbows, but my entire body is using those gestures. Animated and descriptive gestures. Finally, our last visual variety has to do with visual aids. Now, typically, visual aids will be PowerPoint slides. I know I'm doing this again. Visual aids will be PowerPoint slides. You can see we have a PowerPoint here. You can also use keynote slides. Now, there is a fatal mistake that so many presenters use, and it's to the point where people call it death by PowerPoint. And what that is instead of using your PowerPoint as an aid or something to complement what it is you're saying, it's a script. You put all your information on it, and you turn around and you read it. And at this point, not only are you reading it, which makes you look unprepared, but you have lost that connection with the audience. It's gone because all they get is your back. And so you want to not only keep your back away from the audience, but those slides, you want to be expressing 1, 2, maybe 3 points at a time, and that's it. Nice, big, bold words with pictures, if you need them, colors, something to help complement what it is you're saying. I had something else with that. Oh, and I also talked about the Jill Bolte Taylor TED Talk thing that I told you the other day. So we have visual variety, we have vocal variety, and that's part of the variety side. We have value, we have variety. Now let's go to the center of the V Deck. Within the center of the V Deck, these are kind of the big, meaty parts of the presentation. This is where we talk about dialogue and conversation. And inherently, by talking about dialogue and conversation, this is no longer about you. This has never been about you. This is about your connection and the things you are expressing and sharing with the audience that they can then go out into the world and use and change their lives and change other people's lives. So dialogue, conversations. One way to do that is through answering questions. You might invite questions to come in. You might ask people if they have questions. Um, at that point, you can answer those questions, but keep in mind, whenever you answer a question, it should always come back to what's the point. That answering the question should help you illustrate your point. So whenever you say something, again, it's all about your main thing that you're talking about. And then you can also ask questions of your audience. When you ask a question, it can be something as simple as, have you ever been in a state where you feel, or have you ever experienced, if raise your hand if you've ever experienced this, or what did you have for breakfast this morning? Don't ask that. That'd be weird. Unless your presentation is about breakfast. Finally, we talk about telling stories. Stories can be one of your most powerful tools that you use to convey your point. And I, with your permission, would like to tell you a story. Now, when you tell a story, again, this is about expressing what it is you have, expressing your point. And so what I'm going to do, you will hear me begin with my point. So let's go. Sometimes, in order to succeed, you have to let go of control. Now, I've been a drummer for 20 years. I play the drums. And for several of those years, I played with a band called Blue Finger Disco. And this was a cover band. We played in Central Texas, and we had such a good time. We would play clubs all over Central Texas. We'd get flown out to California. We'd go out to Mississippi and Oklahoma and Louisiana, and we were really doing well. We were doing so well that Baylor University gave us a call one day, and they said, we have a freshman welcome week every year, and we'd like you to come play that for us. And we heard this, we were so excited. However, we didn't really know what to expect. We were used to playing in bars with drunk older people, and so, well, not older, but drunk people, and it was a different environment. So we didn't know what to expect. We got there on the day of the gig. We walked in, we set all our gear up, and we just waited. And we saw just in the distance, when it was ready to start, these doors just came all the way up, and this stream of kids came just tearing through the halls. 3,000 kids just running in, ready to have a good time. They were away from their parents for the first time. They were excited. Now, the other thing we have to say is Baylor's a conservative religious university. And so we really didn't know what to expect. And so all of that said, we said, let's just do this. And so we got started. We got behind our instruments. We started playing, and the kids went nuts. They had so much fun. They were jumping. They were screaming. And we got to about the third or the fourth song. And we were in between songs. The song ended. Before we got to the next song, Joe, our lead singer, got on the microphone. And he started saying, "Are you guys ready to have a really good time?" And he put his hand up in the air. And all of a sudden, across from him, 3,000 hands went up into the air and started going, "Ah!" And we had no idea what was going on. What they didn't tell us was that the Baylor Bears, which is their college football team, has a chant like most college football teams do. Since they're the Bears, all the people in the football stadium all at one time put their hands up in the air and go, "Ah, sick 'em," and bring their hands down and go, "Sick 'em." We didn't know this. And so when Joe had his hand up in the air, raised his hand up in the air, and 3,000 hands went up in the air and started going, "Ah!" I saw this look of panic on Joe's face. He turned around and looked at us. We looked at him. We had no idea what was going on. And then that look of panic turned to confidence, because I saw something happen in Joe where he just let go. He said, whatever's going on, we're going to ride this out and make it work. And so he was up here, he saw all of them doing this, and he brought his hand down, and just like the football games, 3,000 hands came down, and they all said, sick 'em. We went on with the show. Everybody had a great time, and we took a lesson from that, which was when you can let go of control, sometimes that means success. So that's the power of telling stories. And that brings us to the conclusion of the V Deck. So thank you for listening.